Listen, so we got this. So Dylan was kind of gave us the idea to kind of drive this topic here. Are we in a bubble? So there's a lot of people who have kind of said things like, prices are crazy. In fact, I had a question on someone who asked about, how do you avoid paying inflated prices, assuming that prices are inflated? I'm going to wait for the market. I'm going to wait for this market to crash because it's going to crash. It's in a bubble, etc. So a little bit of a topic over here I want to kind of go over, and Dylan's going to lead this, but as usual, we're going to have a conversation between the four of us on are we in a bubble. So Dylan, why don't you get us started? I've got those slides that you put together. Let me know which slide you want me to show, and why don't you get us started here?
Yeah, maybe let's do the one with the 3 graphs on it first.
All right, so that be this one here.
Yep. So this just illustrates, and again, we can go off how we feel, or we can go off what the data is and what the the economic numbers actually are. And so this is just a real simple illustration of the market today and how very different it is from 2006, right? Even though the market can feel similar to 2006 and that lead up to the crash where it was really hot and prices were rising and everybody was buying stuff, there's some fundamental factors that are very different. And the first and most important one is the amount of risk in the lending industry. So that graph on the top right there shows you a mortgage loan originations with a credit score of less than 620. So in 2006, for just comparing 06 to 2020, there was $376 billion in mortgages given to people with a credit score of less than 620. In 2020, it was 74 billion. So a fraction of the amount of money was lended to people that are risky, right? Risky loans. And so that is a big factor where a lot of those lending regulations that led to a lot of risky and shoddy lending back in the last crash is gone. I mean, Dodd-Frank changed a lot of that stuff, and it's much harder to get a mortgage today than it was 10, 12 years ago. So that's the first big one is that the risk in the market is not there. And we're seeing that, right? We're seeing that in the market with our buyers. It is really hard to get a 0 or low down payment offer accepted in this market because you're up against people with 20, 30, 40, 50% down or full cash offers. And so if you're coming in, with a 3% FHA loan or something, I mean, unfortunately, you go to the bottom of the stack. And then when people are concerned about an appraisal, they want to make sure you have some cash to cover the difference with an appraisal waiver clause. And if you have no down payment money, that's just not an option for you. So very big difference.
So let's just kind of gather and talk about this. So one of the big differences here, and again, when you're talking about a bubble, you're referring to the last bubble, the 08, the 06, 08 bubble where the market crashed. So the big thing I'm hearing you say is that we really don't have a situation where people with very, very low credit scores or very highly leveraged mortgages that are just on the edge are in the market. That's just not the case. Scott, Heidi, anything you guys want to add to that at all?
I mean, yeah, I agree. It's cash and high down payment deals that I'm seeing right now. I mean, people with a minimum down payment are really having a hard time in this market just because it's competitive. And there's not a lot of inventory, so that's just where we are.
That's even driving it harder. Scott, you had some that you're going to add.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about mortgages and being able to get mortgages, if you look back at that 2005, 2007 market, it was very easy to get money and to get loans, and you didn't have to prove a whole lot. Dodd-Frank changed all that. So things were much more restrictive coming out of that. Even through 2019 through 2020, it was harder to get a loan and you had to put more money down. And then COVID hit and it got even more restrictive because the lenders will go, hey, do you have a job? Are you going to have a job next week? How is your job security? And they even tighten their guidelines from there. So if you're talking bubble side, if the bubble is going to come, it's going to be, to me, from something systemic that we don't see out of left field that happens. It's not coming just because prices are going up. The interest rates dropped and that caused affordability. It's hard to get loans and there's a lot of money in the market. So a crash doesn't even make sense because people have a ton of equity in their property, not only from values going up, but having to put a lot more down just to be able to get the loan. So you sell it and you walk away with a profit. They're not going to be foreclosing.
So unlike the previous bubble where you were the market crash you were highly leveraged. So when you lost even a few percentage points of value on your home, you were already kind of what they call underwater. You owed more than the house was worth. Today, that's no longer the case. Dylan, you had a slide about that, right? About that very
Yeah,
topic.
we have four. Yeah, that's a separate slide. Four reasons why the end of forbearance won't lead to a flood of foreclosures. We can go over that.
I'll just pull this up real quick. It's kind of got a lot of words on it and words. I'm not a big word fan. When I see words on a page, my brain starts like flipping out. But there are a couple of quick points right over here, Dylan.
Yeah. So the first big one. This is the other one that people speculate on, right? Is that forbearance is coming to an end this month, right? October. A lot of these programs are going to start coming to an end, and people are saying,
just for a minute, for people like me who don't know what that means, forbearance means what?
So when COVID started, because of so many people losing their jobs and the strain on the economy, there were programs put into place where you could forbear paying your mortgage, right? So it wasn't forgiveness, it was forbearance, and there was some confusion in the marketplace amongst consumers. But basically, what they did was people have taken a break from paying their mortgage because they're unemployed or whatever their case is. But then those payments get added on to the back end of their 30 years, right? So they don't give it up, or they need to come up with a payment plan. There's different programs that are in place.
Okay.
But those are going to be coming to an end. So there's some speculation out there that when that happens, there's going to be this big flood of foreclosures in the market, and the face of the data doesn't bear that out. The first big one is there were 9.3 million foreclosures after the bubble the last time, which is a mind-boggling amount. Right now, there's less than 1.9 million people in forbearance. So even if every single one of them foreclosed, it would be 20% of the amount of foreclosures that happened in 20 between 2008 and 2011, after the last crash. But to Scott's point, the second point on here, 87% of the people who are currently in forbearance have 10% or more equity in their property. And that's an important number because 10%, if you have a minimum of 10%, that'll allow you to sell the house and get out of it, right? You'll pay closing costs, you'll pay maybe any penalties and fees if you're behind on your mortgage, and you'll be able to walk away. But most people have more than 10% equity. So you can put your house on the market, even if you continue to be distressed and you can't pay your mortgage, you can put it on the market, sell it, and then walk away with some cash in your pocket because of the equity that you have in the home. And then real quickly on 3 and 4 there, the market can absorb any new listings, right? I mean, right now, that's been a problem. In 2000 and in the last crash, there was 9+ months of inventory on the market. Today, there's less than 3 nationwide. In Hawaii, it's like a month. Right? The Big Island, there's like a month of inventory. And what that means is that if no new listings come on the market, starting today, within 30 days, everything that's on the market would be sold, right? It's just a measure of kind of the market and how strong it is. And right now, because of the lack of inventory, if there's new listings, they'll get bought with the demand that's out there.
Excellent. So let's kind of have a discussion here. So let's go first to Scott and then to Heidi. What do you want to add to what Dylan's saying or raise or other issues that are related?
Yeah, even the local banks. So when I was talking to the guys that I chat with all the time at the local banks, and we were talking about the number of people in forbearance here on Oahu, and I said, hey, what are the actual number of those people that are in trouble? And they said it's less than 50%. A lot of people went into forbearance because they saw it as a free way to not have to pay their mortgage for a little time period or whatever. So a lot of them, once they started to realize there were some penalties and things, they're starting to get caught up or will or have. So the number that are actually in forbearance has been shrinking, and it's pretty insignificant. Like Dylan said, you bring it on the market. The offer I made in Kailua, there's 11 people bidding for that home. Okay, well, one got it. You bring even 2 homes or in that neighborhood alone on, there's 10 other people that are wanting those 2 homes. The buyers are there to absorb the market. It's not going to impact us significantly.
Excellent. Heidi, anything you want to add to this?
Well, yeah, so just because of how our market's changed, homeowners that have been behind on their mortgage, some of them are finding it's a good time to sell right now and actually come out ahead. So it's working in their favor. And yeah, it's just, I said this before, buyer demand is still strong. I think the people that are waiting around for a big crash might be disappointed and miss out altogether because we just keep going. Real estate's always been expensive. I think historically it's always been expensive. So it's just, are you willing to jump into the market and own something. And I think you have to look over, a longer term perspective as well.
Yeah, well said. Heidi, when you mentioned that real estate's always been expensive, I remember when I had first come here in the 80s, and I was catching that homes in Kailua at that time. Scott, the neighborhood that you just 1.4, 1.5 homes in Kailua. This is the mid 80s now, gang. So this is a long time ago, probably before many of you were born. But anyway, mid 80s homes in Kailua were outrageously expensive because they were going for $150,000. $150,000, outrageously expensive homes in Kailua. So yeah, it's always relative. I'm just, I was doing some, by the way, I was doing some retirement planning, and just taking inflation, Scott, not inflation. I took your rule of thumb. You said on average, Hawaii prices appreciate about 6% a year, give or take. Map that out for 20 years. Map it out for 20 years, and the outrageously expensive. Do your calculations, folks. The outrageously expensive house that just went for 1.5 in Kailua is going to be $10 million in 20 years. $10 million.
So I've done that log linear before for people.
Okay.
And
good.
And remember, I talked about this on the show before. I had the lady in Waipahu who bought her home 50 years ago, and I couldn't find it in the tax records because online doesn't go back that far. She bought it for 20 grand. She said every penny she could to put the down payment of 20% down. It was hard. The monthly payments were less than $100 a month for that time. The first 3 years were difficult and prices were expensive for her at that time. And then we sold it for $550. 35 years, I think we're at 4.7% annual log linear appreciation, and things adjust a little bit. But if you log linear that out, when I did it out another like 20, 30 years and showed people the number, they're like, it'll never get to that point. It'll never get that high. Well, we double in sales price every 10 years. Why wouldn't we get there? We've been, that it's the data, right?
It's the data. Well, I'm really glad. I want to jump in here real quick, Bill. I know you want to say something, but I did want to say that it has been helpful, gang, because look at what we've this discussion has been helpful to at least one person. I know it's been helpful to more. But Heather, thank you, Heather, for your comment. Heather says, yeah, I was thinking of waiting until real estate craziness settled down, but apparently it sounds like it's going to be even crazier if I wait longer. Exactly. Need more time to load my briefcase of cash. Talk to the Russians, Heather. The reason we're going to Big Island is to check it out as a potential place to buy a home, as opposed to, just exploring now, but don't want to wait too long, I guess. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this thing is going. So, and a quick shout out here, Lynn Walker. Welcome, Lynn. Aloha from Granite Bay, California. Happy to be joining the live show. Lynn, we're super glad, Dad, you're here. So, okay. So here's my dumb guy question right now. So I know I'm old enough to remember in 2006 and 2008, Alan Greenspan getting on in Senate testimony saying, we're not going to have a bubble. It's not going to happen. Everything is good. We are in good shape. We're all set. Don't worry about it. Not going to happen. Now, Alan Greenspan's a lot smarter than all of us, and he alluded that it's not going to happen. Now, you've all given us some great reasons, and I believe all of those reasons. I believe them all. You're all correct. You can't lie with the stats. But what's the unknown that we don't know, right? Is there, and it's just purely speculative, right? There's no way of knowing, but is there a bubble lurking that we can't see? The nature of bubbles is you don't see them. That's why they're called bubbles. I don't know if you guys want to if there's any that's just a crazy comment, but go ahead, Dylan.
We survived COVID. That's what's crazy, right? I mean, shutting our economy down for a significant amount of time, I mean, still didn't slow it down. And if you go back, if we go back to the graph slide, one more couple more pieces important of data here.
Let me go back. Is this the one with the are we in? I think it's the one.
The three bar graphs.
3 bar graphs. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. I got you.
No, the other one, back one.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Your slide handler. Your slide handler is rather incompetent, so bear with me. All right, go ahead. Yeah,
we won't fire you yet.
Okay, all right.
So the other one is we keep talking about supply, right? And we keep talking about supply, and is something going to change? And so that bottom left-hand graph shows you the amount of new homes that are built in America every 10 years. So this is just America, but we can drill down into Hawaii. It's even probably worse in Hawaii. But there's normally between like 9 and 12 million homes, right? In the lead up to the last crash, there was 12.6 million, record high number of new homes put on the market, supply, right? Increases in supply. Since 2010, in the last decade, we're at 6.5 million. So we're at like half of how many homes are normally going on the market every year per decade. And this is a big contributing factor to the lack of inventory nationwide, right? There's always new people coming into the market. The population continues to grow. Millennials are buying at record numbers. Baby boomers are living longer, so they're staying in their homes longer. And with all of that going on, we're putting on half as many homes on the market than we used to, or building half as many homes as we used to the previous 50 years. So that supply isn't going to change, right? That is what it is, and that's a big fundamental factor with economics is supply and demand, right? Demand continues to increase, and supply has fundamentally been lagging behind, and we got to take that into account.
That's interesting. I know that Hawaii had a big crunch. Hawaii was booming with housing and everything until the 70s. And then there was a whole bunch of environmental kind of legislation in the 70s, and it just crunched it down.
There's basically no new housing on the Big Island, right? I mean, unless you're buying a $5 million house, there's lots of new construction for the $5 to $20 million house, but the under $1 million house, I mean, it's non-existent. It's onesie twosies here and there, but no new large development.
I mean, I understand why there's no new development in Hawaii, but I wonder why has been the crunch across the mainland.
Well, it was because of the last crash. So builders have not recovered, right? That put so many people out of business, and it put such a constraint on so many large, those D.R. Hortons, those big builders, that they haven't fully recovered. And
they have, and of course, credit is a lot. What's that, Scott?
Yeah, they got gun shy for a while there.
Well, and I got to believe that the credit thing has had an effect, because credit has crunched down, so it's not as easy as it used to be to get a loan, and etc. We have a couple more,
and that's true of large building institutions too, right? I mean, they get tens of millions of dollars of loans, right? So their lending standards got affected just like the regular person did. Yeah,
they're getting crunched too. Yeah, exactly. We had a couple of comments that are coming in from everybody, which is great. Anna V, thanks so much for this. Very informative. We are looking to buy early for our retirement and possibly short-term rent in the meantime. Anna, you are with good company, girl. You want to be hanging out. There's a form on the comments. Click on that form. Get on. If you're not already on the list, get on the list. I know that Dylan and Heidi and Scott would love to talk with you to help you out. Val's throwing in some comments here. Not a real estate expert, but I minored in statistics, and it's always better to think and invest based on data than with your heart. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Val, and it's always kind of fun to see these numbers. Shout out to Alex back the man. Alex, welcome. Alex is a member of the Islander Ohana on alumni, so great to see you all. Excellent. Before we move on this topic, I think we all get the point here that it's nothing right now. It's nothing like 2008. As far as the market fundamentals, the financial fundamentals, equity in homes, people with bad loans, all that's radically different. And so one thing's for sure: if there's going to be a bubble, if there's going to be a bubble, it ain't going to be like the last one. If there's going to be a bubble, it's going to be something else. But I'm still go ahead, Scott.
Or to be something that we don't. It's going to be something that we don't see if there's a bubble. In other words, if interest rates increase, it will just slow things down, and at some point we hit an affordability ceiling, and that will slow things down. We're not going to have a crash from those things. If there's a crash or a bubble, it's from something systemic we don't see coming out of left field.
Yeah, like a virus that leaked out of a military lab in Wuhan and kind of went around the world, and now everyone's kind of like, it's killing everybody. That something like that, right? You never know. It's the don't knows that we don't knows. Anyway,
alien invasion. Alien invasion is always on the table. So
alien invasion is always on.